So hello, good morning. Welcome to the UPSC, the live Hindu analysis class, and today the date is 10th of October, 10:10. So we are starting with the front page of the first page of the today's Hindu. So here we have the first page. Assembly elections in 5 key states in November. Fine. So finally, the Election Commission of India has declared the date of election in these 5 states, the key states before Lok Sabha elections. Fine. So you can see where the election is going to be held in the states of why these are key. So of course the Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, Madhya Pradesh, the bigger states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Telangana, very important from the next year's election point of view. Fine. Apart from this, Israel imposes total siege on Gaza, death count rises. Fine. So you see that now the Israel has embarked almost Gaza Strip from all the sides, all the corners. Fine. And finally, Israel is in the mood to now completely demolish this Gaza and so-called Hamas. Fine. So therefore, because this has been a very big, kind of attacks where you have seen that more than 600 people, 700 people has been already dead, killed in this attack by Hamas on Israeli people, and in retaliation around 400 to 500 people or of Hamas, this Gaza Strip who are residing in Gaza Strip has already been killed. Fine. So this is counter and of course attack and counter attack. So we'll be keeping tab on this, and shortly I'll be making a video where I will be discussing about the genesis of this whole Israel and Hamas. Fine. By tomorrow or day after tomorrow, 100% it will be uploaded on our channel Edu4IS. Fine. And therefore there I'll be discussing everything, every single doubt of yours would be cleared in that video. Fine. We'll be talking about going back the 50 years back from the even before that, the history or genesis of this struggle since then. This is not the happening of just few days back. This is not something that happened for the first time, but this has been there since years. Okay. So unemployment rates in urban areas dips. That's a good thing. Just election delays not advisable, says Supreme Court again. And the state seizure of Indian, okay, need not to go into that. Okay, anyhow. So Claudia Goldin wins 2023 Nobel Prize for research on workplace gender gap. So Nobel Prize in Economics 2023 has been awarded to Claudia Goldwyn for her remarkable research on workplace gender gap, that how we see the gender gap or gender discrimination at the workplace. Fine. So that's a very good thing. Again, apart from that, let us now move to the city page. City page, I have said time and again, please have a look at this, have a cursory look at this page. Again, you have city page from Delhi. So those who are joining from Delhi must have look. Other people can, if not any important, can skip these pages. Okay, states poll page. So on states page, you have more or less the politics only. And since the date has been already declared by the Election Commission yesterday only, so of course, now this states going to be in the poll mode. Fine. Okay. So here, today, as you know, the date is 10th of October, and we are marking today the World Mental Health Day. Fine. So mental health and the floundering informal worker. Okay. So talking about the informal sector and the mental health, they've actually, faces mental health issues. Fine. So quickly, the theme of this year World Mental Health Day, October 10, this year is the mental health as a universal human right. In fact, a segment often overlooked when it concerns mental health is the informal workers. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है. Even in our country, more than 90%, the workers are involved in, this informal sector. So a study by International Labour Organization says that around 15% of working age adults globally live with a mental disorder. Fine. So on one hand, decent work influences mental health in a positive way, while on the other, unemployment or unstable or precarious employment, workplace discrimination or poor and particularly unsafe working environments can all pose a risk to a worker's mental health. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है. अगर यहाँ पे security नहीं है, safety नहीं है, especially let us say safety of women at the workplace, so of course somewhat it has mental impact. Fine. Okay. So the Indian experience, what about India's, so the India's informal workforce accounts for more than 90% of the working population. These workers often operate without regulatory protection, work in unsafe working environments, and endure long hours, have little access to social or financial protections, suffer high uncertainty and deep precarity, and face discrimination, all of which further undermine mental health and limit access to mental health care. So gender disparities की अगर हम बात करें तो this is also stark with over 95% of India's working women engaged in informal work sector, low paying and precarious employment, often without social protection, in addition to suffering patriarchal structure and practices in their social and familiar spaces, especially familiar spaces. Especially अगर हम women की बात करें, so you have lots of, you see lots of sexual exploitation and all at the workplaces they face. So of course it's all somewhat adds to their mental agony or mental pressure, or this negatively impacts their mental health. So according to United Nations Development Program UNDP, unemployment and poor quality employment have consistently been detrimental to mental health. The Lok Niti group within the Center for the Study of Developing Societies, which interviewed 9316 youth aged between 15 to 34 years across 18 states in India, has shown that they are highly susceptible to negative emotions. Yes. So according to UNDP, unemployment and poor quality of employment have consistently somewhat been detrimental to mental health. Another survey is by Lok Niti group. This survey actually covers 15 to 34 years of age of the youth and across the 18 states of India. This also establishes the fact that they are very much, or they are highly susceptible to negative emotions, especially with respect to the employment. And so another report, the State of Inequality in India report 2020, observes that unemployment rate actually increases with educational levels, particularly for educated young women who show an unemployment rate of 42%. तो एजुकेटेड अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट की अगर हम बात करें तो विमेन में जो है वो ज्यादा है कंपेयर टू मेन. सो यंग विमेन हु शो एन अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट रेट ऑफ 42%. With this phase of demographic dividend, where half of India's population is of working age and projected to remain so for 2 decades, it is pertinent to think about the quality of employment and long-term social security for them. So yes, this is the need of our. We talk about, we have the largest demographic dividend in the world today, so we need to of course provide them safety, security and other things so that we can harness this dividend in a better manner. India will also become an aging society in the next 20 years with an apparent social security roadmap for this rapidly growing group that is especially vulnerable to poor mental health. The census of India 2011 shows that 33 million, means 3.3 crore elderly people are working post retirement in informal work. रिटायरमेंट के बाद भी वो फॉर्मल इनफॉर्मल सेक्टर में कहीं ना कहीं काम कर रहे हैं. Another study by the ILO, that is International Labour Organization, on elderly employment in India shows high poverty among them in terms of economic dependency and access to financial assets. The absence of proper financial and healthcare security among the working elderly can severely impact their physical and mental health, aggravating their vulnerability more. Of course, so all of this can aggravate the vulnerability of especially this group called, especially those people who are in the old age or elderly, fine. So of course, their problem can be aggravated by not having such kind of safety and security. So on social security, informal workers face mental distress due to accumulating debt and rising healthcare costs, which are intertwined and mutually reinforcing. Study by Women in Informal Employment, Globalizing and Organizing, that is WIGO, among informal workers in Delhi, mostly migrants, indicate that recovery post COVID-19 remains uneven among informal workers cohorts. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है कि post 19 की अगर हम recovery की बात करें तो that has been uneven among the informal workers because of not having any kind of what social security measures or social security protections. Fine. Another thing, मनरेगा की अगर हम बात करें, so मनरेगाs have seen their funding slashed in the previous budget. In 2021, the NCRB, National Crime Records Bureau, so you have lots of data, facts and important ones in this article, fine, reported that 26% of the people who died by suicide were daily wage earners. Employment guarantee programs can indeed improve mental health outcomes. The social security can be promotional, aiming to augment income, preventive, aiming to forestall economic distress, and protective. So social security can be promotional, can be preventive, and can be protective. Remember the three things: aiming to ensure relief from external shocks. Fine. So government came up with the code on social security 2020. It shows how glaring issues concerning the social security of India's informal workers still remain unheeded. अभी भी ध्यान नहीं दिया गया इसमें. Fine. So while India should universalize social security, the current code does not state this as a goal. Now care needs drastic improvement. Informal workers, despite their significant contribution to national income, are perennially exposed to various economic, physical, mental vulnerabilities. Right? So India's budgetary allocation for mental health, currently under 1% of the total health budget, has over focused on the digital mental health program, as the World Mental Health Report 2022 observed. Addressing mental health involves strengthening community-based care and people-centered, recovery-oriented, and human rights-oriented care. So all of these kind of cares we need to, look at in order to ensure that we, our population has, this better mental, they are mentally healthy. So there is an urgent need for proactive policies to improve mental health recognition and action. This is critical in upholding the basic human rights to good health, including mental health, and in advancing to the Sustainable Development Goals, especially SDG 3 on good health and well-being, and SDG 8 on decent work for all economic growth. So SDG has been in news. Even the day before yesterday, we discussed about SDG related articles on the same part of this page or this editorial page. Fine. So therefore here to remember, SDG 3 relates to your good health and well-being, and SDG 8 relates to your decent work for all economic related growth. Fine. So this again a piece of article is very, very important. Fine. This article is the end of the two-state solution. So what exactly was the two-state solution as advocated by many of the countries, including the United Nations and the Middle East nations like Gulf nations? So two-nation state solution is that Israel, already an a sovereign nation, Jewish population basically है Israel की, and the other Islamic population of Palestinians, Palestine. Fine. So the demand has been that Israel should grant statehood or the nationhood to the Palestine. Fine. So this is called as, referred to as time and again as two-state, this two-state theory or two-state solution. Israel is an independent nation, Palestine should also be an independent nation. But Israel has never recognized this fact, because Israel says that they are living on this Israeli land only. Fine. So they cannot be declared to be an independent country. Fine. And in Palestinian, this Islamic population, one of the groups of this Palestinian called Hamas, which actually attacked Israel, and now Israel is retaliating. Fine. With a massive, you can say in a massive scale, at a massive scale. So of course this now two-state solution or two-state theory, nation theory, seems to be an elusive one now for the time being. Fine. So therefore this article is related to that only, not much to discuss in that. Just this is how this going, the the author is writing about since Hamas has attacked. So now the question of two-state nation theory has already been somewhere lost, but time will only tell how this attack is going to be. So this is important, the state of the India's scheduled areas. Now we have two articles in the schedules in the Indian Constitution, Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. So Schedule 5 relates to your scheduled areas, while Schedule 6 relates to your tribal areas. Fine. First thing first. Then after this, we are having around 705 scheduled tribes in India. Fine. Making up almost 8.6% of the country's population, live in 26 states and 6 union territories. So Article 244 pertaining to the administration of scheduled and tribal areas is the single most important constitutional provision for STs, scheduled tribes. Article 244 Clause 1 provides for the application of 5th schedule provisions to the scheduled areas notified in any state or other than Assam, मेघालय, त्रिपुरा, मिजोरम, because जो 80 mm that is Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram है, these 4 states comes under schedule 6, that is meant for tribal areas, not schedule 5, mind it. The 6th schedule applies to these states, these 4 states, fine, as per article 244. Schedule 5 जो है that applies to almost 10 states of India, fine. You can see scheduled areas under schedule 5 covers 11.3% of India's land area, have been notified in 10 states, that is Andhra, Telangana, Odisha, Jharkhand, Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh. In 2015, Kerala proposed to notify. So you can see this much, fine. Now the question is, who decides how are scheduled areas governed? So this remember, scheduled areas are governed by the President of India. He notifies India's scheduled areas. States with scheduled areas need to constitute a tribal advisory council, called in short TAC, fine, with up to 20 ST members. Maximum members can be 20, fine, and they will advise the governor on matters referred to them regarding ST welfare. The governor will then submit a report every year to the president regarding the administration of scheduled area. So this is how the scheduled areas are governed, by governor on behalf of the president, and governor has to provide an annual report to the governor, fine, about the. So who decides scheduled areas? The 5th schedule confers powers exclusively on the president. So president has exclusive power to declare scheduled areas under 5th schedule, and governor has exclusive area to declare schedule these tribal areas under 6th schedule. So mark this difference, fine. So however, how scheduled areas identified now, neither the constitution nor any law provides any criteria to identify scheduled areas. However, based on the 1961 Devar Commission report, so you need to be mindful of this. The Devar Commission report of 1961 relates to or is related with the scheduled areas. So the guiding norms for declaring an area as a scheduled area, fine. क्या क्या factors हैं जो ध्यान रखने होते हैं? Preponderance of tribal population, compactness and reasonable size of the area, a viable administrative entity such as district autonomous council, block or taluka. So things are like that, fine. The second committee is, after Devar Commission, is Bhuria Committee, recognized a face-to-face community, a hamlet or a group of hamlet managing its own affairs to be the basic unit of self-governance in scheduled areas. So do remember these two committees, Devar Commission 1961 and Bhuria Committee, fine. However, Panchayati extension to Panchayati Raj extension to scheduled areas enactment finally, which was enacted in the year 1996. Panchayats after 1992, then PESA Act, that is Panchayat extension to scheduled areas, or PESA in short, Act 1996, changed the governance of scheduled areas in the country, fine. You can see this map, 5th scheduled areas, 6th scheduled areas, non-scheduled areas. So 6 scheduled areas, you can see just 4 states, 80 mm, rest are 5th schedule, the 10 states of India, fine. So what's next? What can be done for these areas? All habitations or groups of habitation outside scheduled areas in all states and union territories where STs are the largest social group will need to be notified as scheduled areas, irrespective of their contiguity. And secondly, the geographical limit of these villages will need to be extended to the community forest resources area under Forest Rights Act 2006, fine. Finally, the geographical limit of the revenue villages, panchayats, taluka and district will need to be redrawn so that these are fully scheduled areas. So very important suggestions and important paragraph. This what's next to be done. In 3 points you can give your suggestions, fine. Next, another important article, and that is, what is multimodal artificial intelligence and why is it important? So first of all, what is multimodal artificial intelligence and why is it important? It is indeed very important, remember. So what exactly is this? Today a new race is going on between different sets of artificial intelligence. For anyone curious about what the next frontier of AI models would look like, all the signs are pointing towards multimodal systems where users can engage with artificial intelligence in several ways. That's why it's a multimodal. People absorb ideas and form context by drawing meaning from images, sounds, videos, and text around them. So a chatbot, even though it can write competent poetry and pass the US bar, hardly matches up to this level fullness of cognition. तो मल्टीमॉडल में क्या है, हमें इंटीग्रेशन ऑफ डिफरेंट सेट्स ऑफ जो इंटेलिजेंस है वो देखने को मिल सकती है. फॉर एग्जांपल AI in several ways. For example, it can absorb ideas and form context by drawing meaning from images, sounds, videos and text around them. कि एक इमेज से भी या एक वीडियो से भी या एक साउंड से भी उससे कोई आइडिया फॉर्मेशन हो सकती है. So a new race opens up. As another good old tech race shapes up, leading AI companies are already playing catch up. On September 25th, ChatGPT maker OpenAI announced that it had enabled its GPT 3.5 and GPT 4 models to study images and analyze them in words. कि एक फोटो है आपकी, उसको देख के एनालाइज करके उसको वर्ड के फॉर्मेट में डिस्क्रिप्शन उसकी दी जा सकती है. ठीक है. While its mobile apps will have speech synthesis so that people can have full-fledged conversation with the chatbot. The Microsoft-backed company had promised multimodality in March during the release of GPT-4 and kept the addition on the back burner. ठीक है. तो देख सकते हो कि माइक्रोसॉफ्ट ने बैक किया है ओपन एआई को, जिसकी कि चैट जीपीटी 4 एंड 3.5 देखने को मिल रही है हमें. एंड इसमें इसने फाइनली ये अनाउंस किया है, लॉन्च कर दिया है कि अब आपकी इमेज जो है उसको भी देख करके इन वर्ड फॉर्मेट और उसकी डिस्क्रिप्शन जो है वो नरेशन जो है वो दे सकते हैं ये मॉडल्स. So how does multimodality work? That is important for us. Multimodality itself isn't a novel thing. The past couple of years have seen a stream of multimodal AI system. Fine, like OpenAI's text-to-image model, DAL.E, upon which ChatGPT's vision capabilities are based, is a multimodal AI model that was released in 2021. Now, DAL.E is built on another multimodal text-to-image model. Text-to-image, fine. कि इमेज को टेक्स्ट में या टेक्स्ट से, जैसे मैंने कहा कि इमेज है तो उसकी कोई टेक्स्ट की नरेशन आपको टेक्स्ट फॉर्मेट उसकी डिस्क्रिप्शन जो है वो देखने को मिल सकती है. Called Clip that OpenAI released the same year. Dell.E is in fact the model which kick-started the generative AI boom and is underpinned with the same concept that runs other popular AI image generators like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney. So AI is of course leading this innovation or leading this multimodal जो model AI की बात कर रहे हैं, that is revolution. And of course Doll.E in fact is the model which kick-started the generative AI boom. Generative क्या होते हैं? Which can generate text, speeches, for example, even it can write essay for you if you provide the topic, fine. So it can regenerate text, image, videos and so on, so forth, fine. So we call them regenerative tools or the AIs. So application क्या है? Of course, application would be immense, wider level, at the wider level. Some of the earlier multimodal system combined computer vision and natural language processing models or audio and text together to perform some of the simpler but rather important functions like automatic image caption generation, etc. Even if these multimodal systems weren't at all powerful, models like GPT-4 gunning from the ultimate dream of artificial general intelligence. So over the time we have seen the evolution of this GPT, ChatGPT and ChatGPT different versions 3.5, 4. In 2020 you have seen the Meta, that is earlier Facebook, was working on a multimodal system to automatically detect hateful memes on Facebook. Meanwhile, Google researchers published a paper in 2021 about a multimodal system they had built to predict the next lines of dialogue in a video. Right? So even next line of dialogue क्या होगी एक वीडियो में, ये भी देखो प्रेडिक्टर इसको किया जा सकता है. Meta announced a new open source AI multimodal system called ImageBind that had many modes like text, visual, data, audio, and so on. So you can see the competition is going on between the multinational in this field, this IT field. So you can see that when Google is in the race, even AI is already leading this race, and apart from that, you have Meta as well. Fine. So other industry like medicine, वहाँ पे भी इसकी application हो सकती है. Fine. Apart from that, if that sounds too futuristic, there are other uses that can be found closer to world we live in, like in autonomous driving and robotics में इनकी application हो सकती है. Multimodal AI की बात कर रहे हैं हम. And apart from that, other industries में भी like medicine में, pharmaceuticals inherently multimodal according to post by Google research. So apart from that, they can process CT scans or identifying rare genetic variations. All need AI system that can analyze complex data sets of images and they respond in 10 words. AI models that perform speech translations are another obvious segment for multimodality. Google Translate uses multiple models, as do the others like Meta's seamless M4T model, which was released last month. The model can perform text to speech, speech to text, speech to speech, and text to text translation for around 100 languages, the company said. That is Meta. Fine. So Meta की जो translation है, that is Google translation, like जो system है जो AI based है, that is we call it seamless M4T model. Fine. It can perform text to text, speech, speech to text, text to speech, speech to speech, and even text to text translations for more than 100 of languages. Fine. So again, a very important concept. Fine. Need to keep keep tab on this. UPSC does like to ask such evolving kind of topics, especially in the tech part. Okay. So here we have politics only, and smart fence along Myanmar border in the pipeline set by the government, Indian government. SC based to here. Okay, that's a different thing. Okay. Israel-Hamas conflict casts shadow on economic initiatives, says official, especially India, Myanmar, not Myanmar, but IMEC, that is India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. So इस पे कहीं ना कहीं ये shadow देखने को मिलेगी. This project might take time to get started. Fine. Okay. What else important? So here we have politics. Fine. What else important? So urban unemployment rate drops to 6.6% in the Q1 of this current financial year. That's a good sign. Fine. So it decreased from 9.5%. You can see somewhat NSSO data ये कह रहा है. That's a good thing. स्ट्रोक डेथ जो है, जो ब्रेन स्ट्रोक रिलेटेड डेथ देखने को मिलती है, इट सर्ज टू 9.7 million by 2050, says one of the reports. Fine. In India, and ICMR to conduct a study to develop solution to remedy childhood undernutrition. Fine. ICMR ऐसी स्टडी कंडक्ट करने वाली है in order to remedify the childhood related undernutrition. So what else important from the business page? So of course, Gaza strife raises worries for inflation, fiscal math, and rupee. Of course, we can see the rise in this global crude oil prices surged more than 3% on Monday, and we can see more, rise in the global crude prices. Fine. Fine. So negative fallout can be seen even in yesterday's one of the articles. We discussed about the negative and positive fallout of this as well. Fiscal consolidation to clip public capex costs. When you follow the path of consolidation, you will be somewhat sacrificing on the part of capital spendings. Okay. IRDAI, that is Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, has issued guidelines on Bima Wahaks. Bima Wahaks क्या है? The women-centric dedicated distribution channel to enhance the insurance inclusion with a focus on rural areas. Fine. Now from world news. So world news, you all know what's going on. Of course, EU freezes Palestinian funding following Hamas attack on Israel. तो यूरोपियन यूनियन जो है इसने फ्रीज कर दिया पैलेस्टीनियन जो भी फंडिंग करते हैं पैलेस्टीनियन को फॉलोइंग हमास अटैक ऑन इजराइल. द टर्निंग पॉइंट, दिस सीम्स टू बी टर्निंग पॉइंट. इकोनॉमिक ब्लॉकेड अगर की जाए, यूएस चाइना टाइज कैन इम्पैक्ट मैनकाइंड्स डेस्टिनी. इज Jinping. What did Hamas achieve from the attack on Israel? So this is an important question, and this attack was of course done on 7th of October. So what it was to achieve, remember, Finally, so number one achievement, these are the history. I'll be discussing in a separate video or separate this class what Hamas wanted. So will Hamas achieve anything for the Palestinian cause from its attack on Israel? That's a question. If the Yom Kippur War was fought between national armies, Yom Kippur War we discussed, it was fought in the 1973 year. It marked 50 years, in 2023, and in the 50th year of this, we have seen this attack by Hamas on Israel. Fine. So Yom Kippur War was led by the basically the Arab nations. Fine. Particularly Israel, Egypt and Syria against Israel, and finally Israel won this war. Israel is facing an Islamist militant group. Also, if in 1973 the fighting mostly took place in Sinai Peninsula, that is Egypt, and Golan Heights, territories captured and occupied by Israel. Thereafter, Hamas launched attacks into Israel town, killing some 700 Israelis. Fine. In the recent attacks, a furious Israel has already declared war on Hamas. So what's awaiting Gaza is fire and fury. While it's unclear whether Hamas would make any strategic gains in the medium term, like Egypt did, the key question here is whether the Hamas actually wanted to extract any strategic gains or concessions from the Israel or not. So that is very important. Apart from that, there is a Oslo process. Oslo, fine, it's a process or accord between these countries which happened post this war, promised a two-state solution, froze in the mid-1990s. There has been no major movement in the peace efforts thereafter. So during this period, Israel saw international focus shifting away from Palestine, regional Arab countries coming forward to have ties with it, and Palestinian resistance getting weakened. So Israel took a status quoist approach and to continue occupation without compromise of the Palestinians. Untenable status quo. It pulled back from Gaza unilaterally in 2005 following the violent first intifada, but from 2007 onwards, Israel has imposed a blockade on the enclave. Fine. In the West Bank, Israel has set up hundreds of security checkpoints and huge security barriers limiting the Palestinian movements. Jewish settlements mushroomed in the West Bank, and pro-settlement politicians rose to power. Fine. So collapse of deterrence. Hamas coordinated attack on Saturday seems to have punctured this security model and Israel's aura of invincibility. बिल्कुल ठीक बात है. Major intelligence failure देखने को मिली है of the Western nations, especially on the level of Israel. Even missile air defense system जो है वो भी failed हो गया इसमें Israel का. And of course intelligence failure major रही है कि इतने large scale पे कैसे हमास के जो terrorists हैं उन्होंने अटैक कर दिया and Israel को इजराइल इसको डिफेंड नहीं कर पाया उस टाइम पे, यहाँ चेक नहीं कर पाया. तो कहीं ना कहीं एक डेटरेंस फेलियर देखने को मिली है इजराइल के लेवल पे. फॉर अ कंट्री दैट्स प्राउड ऑफ इट्स इंटेलिजेंस प्रोएस एंड मिलिट्री सुपीरियरिटी व्हिच इट नेवर हेजिटेटेड टू यूज अगेंस्ट इट्स एनिमीज. फाइन. The failures on October 7 is likely to haunt Israel's policymakers for years, if not decades. It's an old axiom in conflict studies that deterrence does not hold in asymmetry conflicts, which was proved right once again. ठीक है. सो डेटरेंस की आप दूसरी पार्टी को, सामने वाले को डेटर करते हो कि वो हिम्मत ना करे कि आप पे वो अटैक करे. ठीक है. इतनी आपकी माइट है, आप इतनी माइट रखते हो. ठीक है. सो कहीं ना कहीं इस बार ये फेलियर देखने को मिली है. Hamas also showed that Palestine issues remains at the center of West Asia's political problems. Irrespective of the geopolitical realignments that are recently underway in the region, be it the Israel-UAE reconciliation, Saudi-Iran detente, the Qatar-Saudi patch-up, the Turkey-Saudi-UAE re-engagement, or the Israel-Saudi talks. ठीक है. कि चाहे जियोपॉलिटिकल लेवल पे जैसी मर्जी रीअलाइनमेंट्स हमें देखने को मिले, बट पैलेस्टीन की जो इशू है दैट रिमेन्स एट द सेंटर ऑफ द वेस्ट एशियन पॉलिटिक्स, geopolitics. So the objective of Hamas attack was the attack itself, which drilled holes into Israel's security model and brought the Palestine issue back to the fore of West Asian geopolitics. But for that, it has taken a huge risk. By massacring hundreds of Israeli civilians, Hamas has gone back to its original tactics used in the 90s and early 2000s. उस टाइम पे भी इस तरह के अटैक्स करते थे. which earned it the terrorist tag. So the unprecedented attack that we have seen on October 7 would also invite a ground offensive from Israel, besides massive airstrikes that are already underway. Israel would target Hamas military and social infrastructure. 100 more Palestinians would be killed. Fine. When Israel launched a ground invasion into Lebanon in 2006, Hezbollah fought back for 30 days and finally forcing Israel to reach a ceasefire. Fine. Hezbollah is another a kind of terrorist group, you can say, operating from especially Lebanon. Does Hamas have the wherewithal to resist Israel for long in the tiny besieged Gaza Strip? So the question is whether Hamas would be able to face Israel for longer. Fine. So the time will tell only, but this seems to be, the answer seems to be no for the time being. But of course, the way, Ukraine-Russian conflict going on, but there you know that Ukraine has been supported by the West, especially US, and here the US is with Israel and Western nations are of course with Israel. So the time will only tell to what extent or to what longer the Hamas would be able to face Israel. Fine, we'll be keeping tab on the same. Now we have a sports page, so World Cup is underway, and finally we have a science page. India needs youth mental health focus to strike demographic gold. ठीक है कि demographic dividend की हम बात करते हैं. We have the largest population of this age group, working age population in the world. So if you want to reap that dividend, fine, then the need of R is that our youth's mental health should be, at the center of the focus or at the focus. Fine. So India's policies need to shift from the current medical model of mental health to the convergent model, which recognizes the complex interplay of behavioral, environmental, biological, and genetic factors throughout an individual's life. Of course, so mental health issues are not just medical can be defined only in a linear fashion. Let us call it a medical or a kind of disease or some issues, but it is an interplay, or its nature is very complex, and it is an integration of n number of factors. For example, behavioral, environmental, biological, and even genetic factors. Fine. So you can see one data. India is a country teeming with more than 1.4 billion people. We are the most populated nation in the world today, and its adolescent population that is aged 10 to 19 years accounts for a substantial portion of national total, some 253 million, that is 25.3 crores. Fine. Total we have adolescent population. So this demographic segment is a significant part of what economists and demographers have come to call the demographic dividend. So these young minds hold the promise of economic prosperity and development, but few also acknowledge that this potential actually hinges on these young men and women's physical as well as mental well-being. आप खुद देख सकते हो कि younger जो population है, जो younger generations है, उनकी mental health की क्या status है. So of course, their mental health will go a long way in ensuring that how India as a nation is going to reap the benefit of demographic dividend. Fine. Youth mental health out of focus. Yes, this has not been the center, the focus. So the Rashtriya Kishore Swasth Karyakram is a government of India policy that deals exclusively with adolescent health. Dhyan rakhna, RKS. Okay. It is Rashtriya Kishore Swasth Karyakram run by the government of India, which takes care of the mental health of adolescent youth. Under the purview of National Health Mission, state governments were responsible for implementing the RKSK policy, including setting up of adolescent-friendly health clinics as part of its facility-based strategies. But to this day, the RKSK has not shared data on its critical components, including but not limited to mental health, violence, injuries, and substance misuse. So अभी तक कोई data हमारे को नहीं देखने को मिली है as such. And other policies like Sarv Shiksha Yojana focused on learning disabilities, National Youth Policy, substance abuse, National Mental Health Policy, the Yuva Spandana Yojana only in Karnataka address various immediate and underlying factors that affect mental health. So these are the other policy measures taken by the government, both central and the states. Fine. Okay, so what else important? A dividend to beckon. Based on a study, survey, and discussion with the stakeholders, experts have identified the following solutions for such kind of problems. First, at the level of adolescents, policymakers should endeavor to shift from the current medical model of mental health to the convergent model of mental health. The latter recognizes the complex interplay of behavioral, environmental, biological, and genetic factors throughout an individual's life, especially during crucial stages of life, you can say, or childhood and adolescence. Fine. For example, the successful implementation of the whole school, whole community, whole child model in the US embraces a holistic approach to children's well-being by considering factors such as nutrition, physical activity, and emotional health within the school environment. So, this kind of initiatives we need in India as well. The second thing that we need to consider, a multi-sector approach that includes underlying factors like education, nutrition should be at the core of policies to realize the full potential of adolescence. So, this is the second solution that India needs to account for. Third solution is we must recognize that a healthy mind thrives within a healthy body, and the government should continue to make the improvement of our school environments and health promoting conditions a priority in parallel with efforts to combat pressing health concerns like malnutrition and anemia. So these are the solutions that our country needs to be mindful of, and our policymakers especially needs to be mindful of, and then only we can ensure a healthy India and a mentally healthy youth population. The benefit or the dividend that accruing out of this population can be reaped. Fine. So therefore our nation's future is banking on evidence-based policy making and unwavering political commitment to be able to move mountains, and that is possible only to take care of our demographic dividend. Fine. So with this, that's it as far as today's Hindu analysis is concerned. If you have any query, anything, kindly put the same in the comment section. Until then, take care, keep revising, and stay tuned for the tomorrow's Hindu analysis. Thank you.